You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call. I've got Brad Hunt here beside me. Today's podcast guests are Mark and Amy Livesay. I made a trip to Missoula, sat down in their living room, and had a little discussion with them, hung out there. It was a great visit. These two people are hard-headed, never quit type folks. And when I was hearing their story, I thought any normal person would have quit on this marriage or this relationship way back when, but they didn't. And I think this is a story that everyone can benefit from and should benefit from. It's inspiring. Mark was a wild man.
Yes.
Amy decided that she could tame the beast.
Yeah.
And
what everybody sees is like a very mild Mark Livesay.
This is I don't think I would have liked the young Livesay.
No.
Maybe.
We'd have fun.
We'd have fun.
But
so it's a really great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing. You know, this is a hunting show primarily. We mostly cover hunting topics. This one is, in a weird way, still about hunting. Amy told me that she's the reason, and Mark corroborated the story, that she's the reason why they moved to Missoula from Missouri.
Yep. So
they moved from east to west so that they could live somewhere where Mark could hunt out of his backyard. At some point, Amy recognized how important how much hunting filled Mark's cup, how much it sort of channeled his drive and his challenges. And I asked Mark, what is it about hunting that sort of filled the empty space where, you got to be intense if you're going to do
compete at a high level in Ironmans.
11 Ironmans, travel the world, eat right, do the fitness, never quit, exercise, recover from injury. Like, you're obsessed. So they also aren't quitters. And at some level, I really admire how Amy just stayed in it, like pushed and fought. Mark too, at some point.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, some prophecy or something that like told Amy to move to Montana or somewhere like that to
I think there was
save them.
Feel some inspiration to do it, and it made all the difference. Mark tells me, if Amy didn't kind of forced me to move, I would still be in Missoula, and I probably or Missouri, and I probably wouldn't be with Amy today.
Yeah,
and that's how impactful that move was for them, and where they're at today. It's remarkable, and I always say you can't have the relationship that a couple has having spent 50 or 60 years together. Correct. If you quit on year 5 or year 10 or year 15. And every one of us has flaws, and we're messed up. So it's like, when do you bail out? When do you quit on someone? When do you not? Yeah. And we have those discussions in this show. And I think Amy and Mark are an inspiration on not quitting, despite all the odds. So soak it in, listen to it. Let us know what you think in the comments section of the podcast if you're catching it on YouTube. I feel like it's a meaningful show, and you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, I agree. When I was editing this, it was like, wow. Kind of like...
It'll make you laugh, too.
It does, too.
Mark's a character.
He's a character.
And Amy's cool. So I think you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for always supporting us, and stay gritty. All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. And on this episode, we're going to talk about marriage and hunting, life. We've got Mark Livesay and Amy Livesay. We're at your house. This is the second time I've recorded a podcast. My other most downloaded podcast was recorded in this house. You know what?
Really?
Yeah. You know what the title was?
Was it about testosterone or something?
And sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it crushed.
Well,
it was about gut health too, but I think it was the sex testosterone title that really, plus it was a really meaty, good show.
Yeah.
But,
and it was on this couch.
It was on this couch. This couch is old.
Yeah, it is old. Mm-hmm.
I remember it being nicer back then.
Oh my gosh.
We are at your house here in Montana, and I got my wife Suzanne here, and I thought Amy, you actually brought this up. This would be a great discussion because a lot of couples maybe struggle a little staying together. also struggle with the hunting situation. Sometimes I think it's going to be a good talk. I was in the mountains with you, Mark, a couple months ago. We were hunting bears, and it'd been years since I showed up in the mountains without a good book to listen to, like Jack Carr, Terminal List, or so. Like I'll save up these books, and I did. I saved up some great books, and I had some podcasts ready to roll, and I had some movies I downloaded. And I got there, and something happened with my phone with an update, and none of those apps would work. And then I had no service, so I was sitting out there by myself.
I got so many texts that time. I never hear from Brian when he's on a hunt.
Yeah, just so bored. Like, what are you
so
doing,
bored.
honey? Yeah.
He's texting her, what are you wearing, honey?
I'm like, I'm busy. I'm not used to these
Yes,
texting interruptions.
same. Like when you're
No.
gone, I'm
I got
expecting
stuff to do.
talk to you.
I got. Look, it took me to a place, Amy. And then
yeah.
I was like, "What are you wearing?"
A lonely place.
And so anyway, but Mark and I spent a lot of time talking, as you do, especially because also what happened on that hunt was we didn't kill any bears, and we were there like 12 days or
A long
something,
time.
and
Yeah.
so you're out there. There was no action. I mean, we covered ground and hiked, and look, we couldn't find. It was boring. It was hot, and we didn't see anything. So we turned to each other, and
And meaningful conversation.
Yeah. So
So
I'm
rare.
exactly. Usually it's Terminal List. Stab him.
When Suzanne quit responding to him, he turned to me.
That's right.
So I started talking to Mark, and I was telling him, we were telling stories about growing up, and I was telling him how Suzanne and I met, and my youth, my parents, things like that. And as usual, I did a lot of the talking at the beginning, and then Mark turns to me and he's like, after he's listened to, I don't know, an hour-long story of my past growing up, he turns to me and he's like, yeah, you and I, we couldn't have more opposite upbringings, right? Like I had two parents in the home. They pretty much, were pretty strict. We went to church every Sunday, and they were very involved. And both my parents were very young too, so they had lots of energy to beat us and keep us in line, and they weren't tired old people,
Right.
like you guys. And so anyway, it was a different upbringing. So Mark starts to tell me about his upbringing, and and we get into it for hours and hours. We talk for days, and I learn about your past and how you guys met. And I'm sitting there listening to this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, how are you guys still married? What happened? How did you guys stay together? And the Mark I see today, I think I'm just like, what a wonderful human. But the Mark that Mark tells me about in the past, I'm thinking, what an a-hole. like
I can't believe I really was that honest.
Yeah. Did you tell him like all the things?
all of them.
I don't know if I told him all of them, but it was pretty much. When you're in the mountains and
Yeah.
something just came over me.
You just didn't have anything else to talk about.
And you hear Brian's upbringing. I felt like I was at the confessional.
Yeah.
Like it was Bishop
People
call,
come out to
and
him.
I was behind the curtain, and I needed to just
You could repent.
come forward.
Truly repent. of all
so
the things.
I think it's an interesting contrast. We can talk about it right here. So Suzanne and I both were, when I was about 16 was the first time I sort of had a rebellious little streak that kind of cropped up with mom and dad, and especially my mom. And we got into, for a number of months, I was determined to defy everything she said. And you kind of know the thing, Amy. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to tell me what to do. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to hit me? Like that sort of. And she's like, she was ready to hit me. Yeah. She's pretty scary, actually. But I was like, she didn't scare me like my dad did, though. Like, not even close. Like, well, okay, whatever. And so she was dealing with like a man, like I was much stronger and bigger than her, right? And so there's no intimidation factor from her from a physical standpoint. And so she started to have, she wasn't sure how to handle that situation. And one thing led to another. And one day we were in this drag out fight because I just wasn't doing anything she said. And she never backed down. I never knew that she was intimidated at all until I was older. But yeah, when a teenage boy that's, is, and she's trying to like enforce a rule and I am just testosterone and like whatever, it was hard. But one day we were having this drag out fight and she said to me, we were just having this like battle and she was yelling at me and I was yelling at her and stuff. And then she stopped and she just looked at me and she's like, what happened to you? Like just a whole departure of the anger. And she basically said, what happened to you? You used to be this person I liked and respected. And she's like, where's that kid? Because this thing here, I don't even recognize. And so it sort of caught me off guard. And it kind of shook me up because I was like, she's right. I knew I was being, really
difficult.
Yeah. I just wanted to do my own thing. I didn't care what she wanted or anyone else, And then that she said, so the next day I had gone to a church youth meeting. There was about 30 kids there. So, from age 16 to 18 in that range. And we all sat down in this house like this. And one of my best friend's father was telling some stories and talking about giving sort of a youth talk. And one of the things that he said was in that discussion was, your parents will do, he said, there's nobody in the planet that cares about you more than your mom and dad do. Like literally there's nobody out there that has more interest in your future than your parents. So when they ask you to do something, imagine if you just did what they asked. How could you go wrong? If you just obeyed your parents and did what they asked, sure, you'd miss out on this party at the high school and with your buddies here, and you'd miss out on this trip and you'd miss out there. But it's like, pretty soon you're just going to be grown up and you can do whatever you want. But right now, what's okay, you miss out on that, but what are the blessings that come from actually putting your faith in your parents and following their counsel? Try that, and I thought about it. And I'm like, you're right. My parents sacrifice anything. They love me more than anyone on the planet. So what if I just did what they asked? What if I just was like, okay, fine, I'll do it your way. I knew I wouldn't be going to football games at the high school. I wouldn't be going to these parties. I knew I wouldn't be dating this one girl who I really wanted to date. I knew which was really a bad idea. But when you're 16, you're all about that. And so I just was like, I left that night and I decided, you know what, I'm going to do everything my parents asked me to do. And when I'm 18 and I move out, and I'm my own person, then I'll, but for the next 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, I'm just going to do what they ask. Fine. I'll just give in and put my faith in them and I'll just do it. So that night, the next day, I'm like, you said I'm grounded for 2 weeks. Cool. Okay. Do you need some help around the house? And then it was like, she just wanted me to hang out with my brother, go get a pizza for the family and watch a movie with the kids, rent a Blockbuster video,
Yeah.
hang out. And so I wasn't hanging out with my friends at high school, the guys on the basketball team with me and all that. I was at my house, kind of lame with my younger siblings. But over time, what happened quickly was my parents began to trust me. Like within 6 months, I had way more freedom than I ever had in the past. And I also had a change of heart because I didn't really want to do anything that would disappoint them. And I deferred to their judgment for everything. And when I said, hey, I'd like to go do this, they said, yeah, go ahead. We trust you. And it was just all of a sudden I saw, how choosing this path of respect and trust that they gave in return lots of freedom. And I, in return, didn't want to betray that trust and lose that freedom or disappoint them. And we developed this strong relationship at that point. And then it carried on through the rest of my life as I tried to live a more Christian life and tried to say, okay, I'm going to try to, tell the truth and be good to people and all of that. Right. So then I went on a mission to Japan, taught a lot of people English. Like I was a service. I'd like 3 days a week. I did free English classes and I learned a lot there and loved the people there, became bilingual, could speak Japanese. And then I came home from that and went to college and then I met Suzanne, and Suzanne similarly had done the same sort of thing with her parents, respected them, honored them, did what they asked.
I was an angel.
Went to
I'm sure
church.
you were.
She was pretty much an angel for the most part. And so then we meet and, I didn't know that about her, but over time, I meet her, we end up dating. She's 19 when I get married. She's close to 20.
A week away.
You were 19 when you got married? Oh, wow.
But I say 20 because, a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds better.
Sounds better. And I was 22. And
so young.
we got married. And then we, right away, it was just like, we never struggled really with marriage or getting along, or we all had the same ideals, and we just communicated when there was but we were committed. Like when we got married, we both came to the table going, there's no other way out.
Yeah.
This is forever. This is eternity. We're committed. And like the divorce is not an option. And growing up LDS, that's really the situation. My parents would tell me, when you go into a relationship going, okay, I'm committed, no matter what happens, I will never, walking away isn't an option. When things aren't going well, you're like, we got to fix this because I'm stuck with this. There isn't the option of backing out isn't allowed.
Yeah.
And same for her. And so when things weren't what we wanted in the other, and when things weren't working well, we addressed it because that's the only option we had. And I can recall thinking to myself, like 2 or 3 years into marriage, thinking, because it gets hard, especially after the honeymoon period is over and other things. And
he starts getting annoyed by how many times I changed my clothes and left them everywhere. How many times do you have to change before you leave the house?
I like to watch her change, but
How
I
many
didn't like all
shoes
the
you have?
But you're in college, and then there's, you're but you meet other girls, and you realize this is it. Like I picked, right? And I think that we both went through these phases, and I thought, man, how easy it is if you go into the relationship. It got hard for a little bit. It's like how easy it would be to just be like, you know what? Let's just call it. You go your way, I'll go mine. Let's start over. Because it seems like starting over is so much more, it's just easier at first, right?
Seems like it would be.
Yeah.
And I've said this to friends of mine who were having trouble in their marriages. I've said, hey, you can't have what a couple has after being together 50 years if you quit at year 5 or year 10. Like, you can't have what people have late in their life when they fought through it and stayed together. So you can quit now, and then you can take all those same problems you have to the next one, and I don't think those people often don't get past wherever they're at because they never figured it out with the other person. Now, it's not always the case. Sometimes you just are with a person who can't change or is toxic, but often I think it's just people quit because they feel like it's easier.
Absolutely.
So I'm telling Mark some of this, my background growing up and everything, and then Mark tells me his story. Didn't have the same parents, didn't it? So Mark, I'd like you to sort of, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing, tell me like where you came from.
Well, first of all, I want to say that when I sit there and listen to Brian tell this, I mean, he's pretty detailed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, I'm so in awe of it, one. And I'm like, but it was so far from reality for me that it wasn't even close. I had a mom that loved me dearly, right? But she was in a very ugly position. My mom was married 4 times, or has been married 4 times. So I'm not saying that that's she would just quit, but kind of did, and it was some of the men quitting on her too. It was a combination, right? But my mom is really not that much different than me. And she was solo. She could operate on her own, and she knew it. She didn't need a man in her life to do it, right? She's used to working hard. And so that was my example. So, and I don't want to mean that in a bad way, but my dad left when I was really young, 8 or so. And really when he left, he was like checked out. He didn't know how to raise kids. He didn't know how to do anything. And he couldn't even handle visitations. It was just way out of his league. And so I just really grew up solo on my own.
Well, with your brother and sister.
With my brother and sister. And
But you were the oldest.
I became the caretaker kind of of our kids, our family. Well, meaning when I grew up in school too, you got to remember I'm 57. A lot was loud in school. I mean, we fought every day. We just settled things out in the parking lot. And I think a lot of that probably would be beneficial today if that happened today. Yeah. But nobody brought guns to school. Nobody brought knives. It was like, let's go out there and let's duke it out. And, and the next day, we're back to normal, right?
Yeah.
And so I became the protector of my brother and sister. And so I just became this Lone Ranger. I mean, really. And the older I got, the worse I got. And there was no bridge too far. There was no risk I wouldn't take. I went to jail a couple times. I did. But God, I feel like I did some things that I should be in jail for, right now. And somehow, some way, I got out of it because some miracle happened, right? And I don't know. I feel like when I got to high school, I was a complete train wreck. And, cause then I was stretching out my oats, like you said, about 16, dude.
Yeah.
Your little 16 situation.
And Mark was a manly man.
Yeah. I was
on top.
I was strong, fit, intense.
I'm pretty sure the thought, maybe I should just obey my mom.
No.
Probably never crossed your mind.
But you know what else I didn't have? I didn't have that youth leader setting me down.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what ended up happening was I got in really big trouble. And I was facing juvie. I was facing some serious issues. And my football coach stepped up and said, I wouldn't play football. I didn't need that. I didn't need team sports. I didn't need any of that. And he came up and he kind of bailed me. He bailed me out. He said, you're going to stay with me and I'm going to be in charge of you. And this man was giant, 6'7", 330-ish. They couldn't
This is what young men need.
Yeah.
Right. They need intimidation. They need another man in their life that's going to kick
100%.
Yeah.
So he basically, at the time, I didn't know that much he cared about me. I thought I don't know what I thought at the time. I was resentful, right? I was like, but I was scared. That means he's the one person in the world that actually scared me. And him and I'd go to the gym and work out, and I had dinner at 5:00. It was not 5:01. It was 5:00.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long. And all of a sudden I started to change a little. Now I still wasn't on the straight and narrow.
It's like, whoa.
But I was off the danger path. I was off the lifetime of jail path.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't cured of all my problems. But anyway, he saved me. He single-handedly saved my life. And years later, I'll fast forward. Years later, I was at an event, and we lost touch after years going through college football and everything. And years later, I ran into him, and him and his wife couldn't have a child. He ended up having a child, and he named it after me.
No.
And I had no idea. And man, I was like, it hit me. I was like, dang, man. And but so that's the case where like one person can make a difference. Because I'm telling you right now, the things that I was doing at the time, I mean, I was stealing dynamite. Felony, giant felony things. And I was on a path, there was no recovery.
Yeah. Self-destruction.
And he diverted that path. And basically football saved me too. Like once I realized that I really like being on a team and I like the responsibility of being a leader, and that kind of changed me a little.
Someplace to put that male aggression,
That's
that
right.
male drive and all that.
But I still didn't have a dad, and I still didn't have a strong, once I kind of, left his wings, I wasn't doing anything like bad, like legally bad anymore, but I was doing other things.
Morally.
I mean, guys, there was Brian was telling me about how you guys would make out and you would kiss, and how excited I'm like, kissing. If a girl wasn't doing something, she's out. It was so unbelievable to hear this romance story of saving yourself from marriage, no sex before. I'm like, what?
People do that?
I'm like, does this exist in this world? And
yeah, we've only been with each other.
I know. I just can't even believe it.
That's not true.
It's because you don't need a hamburger if you know you got a steak.
Well, and you did get married when you were mere children.
Right. Yeah, right. Like,
Which I think I recommend.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But let me do.
Yeah, go ahead. Like,
so at 19, I had done more than most 40-year-olds at 19. I mean, I was hitchhiking. I was on the highways. I was not calling my mom. I'm having parties. So we had to raise money, right? We were super poor. I was having beer keggers at my house at 14, 15 years old. We go to the liquor store, wait outside, wait for some drunk to buy us a keg. And I charge these 10-year-olds to come and drink beer. 10, 12, 15-year-olds to drink beer.
Sometimes he exaggerates.
I was going to say it's exaggerating.
He embellishes a little.
This is not exaggeration.
10-year-old.
High school kids, not 10-year-olds. High school kids.
Yeah, okay, good.
And I'd make this money. Today you would go to jail. I mean, there's no way you'd survive it, right?
yeah.
And so anyway, I was on these really bad paths. And I was in college. And all of a sudden, something clicked in me in college. So I had a couple of aha moments in my life. One was that coach. The second was I was a terrible student. In high school, I was like, I did the minimum. You can miss 80 days or something. I missed like 78. I'd skip. I mean, everything you could do. I'd cuss my teachers. I mean, like, I'd tell my teacher, you're not going to do anything to me. You're going to kick me out? No, you're not. I mean, I just was defiant at every level.
I bet they loved you.
Now, when my coach got hold of me, that ended. That ended. Oh, that dude, he ended all that.
College coach.
No, my high school coach.
Oh.
He ended all the disrespect was over. And, but anyway, in college, I decided, I'm a capable dude, right? I'm pretty capable. If I put my mind to things, I'm very able to do things. I just didn't want to do them. And when I got to college and I'm getting my school paid for, and I'm like, I'm so ungrateful to like this opportunity I have to play football and get paid. I gotta educate myself. I'm from a family I'm the first person that's going to graduate college in my lineage. My mom didn't even make it past like ninth grade. And I'm like, dude, you're being an idiot. And so I studied hard, and I ended up getting ready to go to med school. So I turned in 5 years. Well, it actually took me 6 years of college.
It's progress.
But think about that. I turned from a DC student to pre-med and moved to Columbia, Missouri to go to medical school.
Wow.
And I worked for an organ bank, recovering, harvesting bone, skin, tissues, and worked there for a while and ended up getting myself ready for med school. Ended up not going to med school and got married, met a pharmacist and got married.
Not to me.
Not
Not a
to
pharmacist.
Haley. And
This is different.
it was a bad deal. We were oil and water. And, but I still, I mean, she was like, I mean,
You were in love.
oh, I was in love, no doubt. And she, all of a sudden one day, 6 months after our baby was born, my daughter Lauren, she decided that was it. And I couldn't change her mind. And so I'm divorced. Nothing I could do. Begged. So then, then the wheels kind of came off. I was kind of,
Oh.
I regressed. I had felt like I had gotten myself stable.
Right.
Yeah.
I went secured, but I was not doing anything bad. I was not
He's
cheating.
a functional, contributing part of
I
society.
was not cheating on my wife. I was making tons of money. I was professional. I was successful. I was this. And all of a sudden, it gets chopped off. So then I just almost reverted back. Not completely, but I just got to this point where I'm solo. The only person that's going to decide what you're doing is me. So I was not a very good person. And then all of a sudden, Amy comes bebopping along. And it was, and I was not ready for Amy. And she certainly wasn't ready for me. She was so young. So I have a daughter, and I'm picking her up on the first date at her mom's house. And I'm like, what in the hell, Livesay? I said, what are you thinking? And she's pretty hot, though. And I was like, I will see. And that's how we started. I'll let her tell that story on that, but I've already said enough. But I just wanted to, I think what I really kind of want people that are listening is like, no matter where you're at, no matter how bad you think it's been or how bad it is right now, it can be turned around and you can pull your freaking act together. And the thing about you men that are listening to this, be a freaking man. If you're acting like an idiot, that's not being a man. If you're cheating and disrespecting on your wife, you're not a man. You're a freaking loser. And you can tell me how crappy your wife is. You can tell me how crappy your job is, how crappy your kids are. Be a freaking man. And for so many years, I just wasn't. Makes me sad to think about it. I knew I was trying to hold it together. For so many, and I still have demons, let's just be honest. Because when you're wrecked at the level that I was wrecked, there's no recovery, right? There's no way I'm going to recover. My whole life will be this way. But you can mediate it. And you can control it. You're never going to fix yourself because you're broken. But with God's redemption and prayer and just gratitude and thankfulness and humbling yourself and surrounding yourself with people that are much better than you. I can't tell Brian how much that stories, when he said that, I'm envious at the same time. But at the same time, I'm like, man, there's some power in that. There's some redemptive power in that, right? And so, I knew this podcast was going to be a little bit rough one. And Amy and I have done some things before. We've been on some shows, and we've been on a couple of things. We've done some marriage counseling, and we've done a lot of things, and we've had some emotional moments. But we're in a pretty good place now.
I wondered, when I understand that background, it could go so differently, right? And when I was talking to her, I was like, well, I don't understand how are you where you are now? How did you get to this place? And, it's Amy. I wanted to hear your side of this kind of story because I've only heard Mark's, but that's what I'm curious because it seems like it should have not. You shouldn't be where you are now, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would have left, Mark. But you didn't. So how did that all play out?
Now let's be somewhat kind.
I would be very kind, honey. Very kind, because we want to stay married, don't we? Well, okay, so I'll say how it happened is by God's grace, right? That we haven't always followed the Lord, and but when we really got into trouble,
Mm-hmm.
we did at least pray, and not together, just on our own. And it's only by that grace that we're together. And through the foundation of like reading the word, the Bible, and getting that into your soul and letting God heal and direct you. So there's a couple things that, you can look back on your life and see that God put into place that protected us. For example, he when I met him, he was divorced. We weren't dating before he was divorced. He was divorced, but I could see like I never wanted to go through that. So right after we met, I got Hodgkin's disease and I had to go through chemo, but he was still reeling from this divorce. And I could look at my situation and his situation and see that was worse because it was just a burden on his soul, right? Whereas, cancer was hard and, you don't really want to go through it, but it taught me a lot, probably taught you a lot because Suzanne had the same kind as I did. But it's not a scar on your soul all the time. Maybe for some people.
You're right. Jordan Peterson talks about this, and he's like, divorce is like a form of betrayal, and Hodgkin's is a tragedy, just a natural disaster, so just nature.
Yeah.
And the one that cuts the deepest is the betrayal because it undermines your whole vision of reality. Like you thought you had this person in your life and this relationship, only to find out that you don't. When it's the human on human, it's the brother, it's the people betrayal or the loss of that that is so much more damaging to your soul than is someone died in a car accident.
Yeah,
they're just different.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's like going to the pit of hell when, especially like in a divorce where maybe, or someone cheats and you're like, what's that say about me? I didn't know that about that person. And I thought this, and it's just it's a deep, deep cut that, so I get exactly what you're saying. You're going through cancer and you're like, that's bad, but in a way easier than that sort of loss of that relationship you thought was something else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like that was kind of a, there's a principle that I tell my kids all the time, or I think to myself, everything that Satan wants to use for evil, God can use for good if you will turn to the Lord, right?
That's absolutely true.
Yes. And so that, when you can look at that, his divorce is that God did use that for good, because I saw that and thought, man, I'm going to do everything in my power to not go through that. So that was one thing. And then, so we dated for 5 years, and,
But when we met, like I said, she might have said that she didn't want to go through that. She didn't really say that to me. She was kind of keeping that to herself. And we broke up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I kicked her out. We were living.
Mark was
living together.
Mark was telling me how after you were gone for a while, he'd be like, "Man, I miss her and I want her back."
Oh my
like
God!
This back and forth.
And
there's a lot of red flags.
So I'd break up with her.
You must be colorblind.
Yeah, a lot of red flags.
I'd break up with her, and then she was always like, I'll kind of fast forward a little bit. I could kind of get her back. She's gonna be mad here. And I could get her back with a very little effort, right?
She must
She was
really
commi-
liked you.
She was committed, right? Until the last time. I was telling Brian, she kind of ended it with me. She goes, I want to get married and you're not doing, I'm out. And man, she like
meant it.
cut me off. Like, it was like, I knew that one was
She's
serious.
like, yeah.
And then I like, fine. I'm a Lone Ranger anyway. I don't need this.
you.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I'm 35 years old. I'm doing travel. I mean, I'm fit. I'm making good money. I'm like, I left a job. I was making really good money, and I was like, I'm on top of the world. Man, it wasn't long. I was like,
I guess we should get married.
there's something about this.
Oh no.
And even with that, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe I'm throwing myself under the bus. When I said, I came back, said, okay,
We could get married.
I'll get married. I said,
How
So romantic.
yeah. And I said, I'm not buying you a ring. You just go buy your own ring. Get online, buy your own ring. So we bought.
She's like, oh, we're getting a big.
We got.
ring.
we did it together.
We did it together.
We
We
did
got
together.
online. We buy this ring. Her only requirement was it had to be bigger than my ex-wife.
That's right. That's fair.
But
Yeah,
dude,
totally fair.
But I mean, who does that? What man? Yeah, I talked about being a man. What man does that way? It's Loserville, man. Loserville.
But I think another good way to look at this. So, we don't have, people see like, oh, do you want to hear the story of our engagement? I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want your story of your engagement because I have a super lame one. No, I don't. Like all these red flags you have. And I think you can go back on your life and go, well, maybe I married the wrong person. But again, if God's brought you together, then a lot of the time you can stay together. And I think you're right when you're talking about the fact that I think we give in so many things. In life is just easy for us in this day and age in a lot of ways. So it's easy to give up and it's easy to start over, or it seems like it's going to be easier. But the reality is once you kind of make that commitment, you need to stick in it, right?
Like I said, you can't have that future relationship like you have now if you didn't battle through that earlier one. You could have a different one right now. It could be at a far less advanced stage. Like there's something about battling through the stuff that makes it special over time. And the fact is, grass is always greener on the other side.
Absolutely, yeah.
And usually what you had was all better already.
You're just going to pick up somebody else's problems, probably.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
Mark had a
lot, so
So,
but I mean, it's not like I was perfect either. I mean, I was a little more angelic, probably, but not.
But you know what? Even I've thought about this a lot. Her indiscretions as well, far less than mine. I drove her to him. It's the bottom line. That's not in Amy's nature.
Yeah.
That's not the way Amy was built. That's not the way she's programmed. I drove her to what she did, basically, right? I don't think I ever even told her that, right?
No, but I have thought that.
And
So I'm glad that you just said that.
but
It isn't, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the reason for all, but I know I know how I was brought up. I know what I'm capable of doing bad. If I wouldn't have done what I've done, I do not think I could have the life I have right now.
Yeah.
I could have stayed on that path. I was very, very capable of staying on that terrible path. I thrive in chaos. I thrive in negativism. I thrive in hostile environments. I do. I mean, the harder it gets, the better I get. And if I have any success hunting, now that's my outlet. Like, I think, a little quick story. When you first invited me to hunt, I know you and Lambers were sitting around saying, like, we'd like to maybe
let's have a backup plan in case Mark can't make it.
Mark's kind of cool. We kind of like him, but he's 57. He's no way he can keep up. And Lambers probably said, Yeah, but he's got llamas.
We needed llamas.
Let's give him a shot. And I'm not saying I performed extremely well, but I think
I'll say this, that we did have that conversation.
This is not just in your imagination.
Absolutely. And Lampers is far less patient with anyone who can't keep up than I am. I'm much more generous of a human being. There was also the fact that a man who's run 10, 11 Ironmans in his life, you don't just do that if you don't have a degree of mental power and fortitude that's been tried and proven. So we're like, even though he's 57, you don't, that sort of mentality doesn't go away. So even if his body's broken and battered and can't, I bet you he'll do it anyway. Like he'll just drag himself across the finish line. Let's use the old man. Yeah. And so we did. And I was curious at what point Mark was going to break. And he just refused to break. Even when we're side hilling on these hills and his blisters and all that stuff. And the truth is, back to thriving in chaos and the difficult, like it was hard. And he never said a word. And he also just seemed just happy. Yeah. Like the pain was his friend, got to the bottom. Achieved the thing. The only thing that really burned him the most was the angry walk down the mountain after he failed on a bear that he was trying to get. That was a mental cave right there, because we could have stayed a few more hours. He was so mad. He just wanted to march off the mountain and eat bears, at the bottom. Eat bears. And so we did. We got to the bottom. We ate bear down at camp and hung out.
Not my bear.
Not. You're right. But it was awesome. It was awesome. And from that day on, it was, I got to see Mark be Mark, and we did have that discussion, and I'm glad we did it, right? But you were talking about the law, about us, whether you come or don't come. But I just think that, that mental toughness is there. There's something different in your drive than a lot of men.
Well, I think we talked about this before the podcast too. Just the fact that in your marriage or anything, when you do when you go through the hard things, that's what makes you stronger. And some people are put into those naturally because of their circumstances, and some of us have to kind of put ourselves into those because they're just not right at hand all the time anymore. So True. He's had a lot, so he can stand a lot.
I think Mark too, like myself as well. I think a lot of men need to channel that that we need to be uncomfortable. We need to suffer. We need to be tired. We need to grind. We need a challenge to overcome. And if you don't put yourself in those situations, you don't have those challenges, then it's going to come out in some negative ways in some other place.
Absolutely.
And
that's how we ended up in Montana.
Yes, that is. So
you couldn't have said it any better. And I was like, oh, Amy's going to go up on this.
Yeah. So, okay, you asked how we stayed together. So I'm just going to put it out there a little bit.
Paint us a picture.
Are we gonna edit this? Are we gonna edit this?
He's getting nervous. We get married in 2002. I think like just like a couple months after we get married, we're fighting so much that he mentions divorce, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then
I'm ready to hit the road again.
So ready to quit.
Yeah.
I never even unpacked my bag
right off the bat. Yeah. And then, we just go down this, we got involved in triathlon. So if you don't know this about triathletes, not all of them. I know a few humble ones. We were not those people. We were not the humble ones. A lot of triathletes really think highly of themselves. And we were part of that group.
I was.
For the love. Anyway. So you kind of get this like invincible spirit about yourself, and And so we were doing those and we were starting businesses and we knew a lot of people, yada, yada, yada. And then, and we just started bickering and just fighting, those fights you get into. Well, you guys probably don't know. You guys, people watching this may know. These don't. They don't know. Whatever. Right. The fight that you get in, that you always get in, that you can never solve, and it frustrates you to death.
Yeah.
Ours was over sex usually. And so we had those, and they just, we didn't want to, but they were just this maddening, surfacing argument. And so in that whole thing, I was unfaithful. Mark was unfaithful more than me. Not to throw him under the bus.
You know how bad it is when you're measuring the degrees of unfaithfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when one is better than another one,
you're not in a good place.
Yeah.
When one unfaithfulness is better than another one,
yes,
you're at rock bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, we're laughing about it now, but it's unbelievable.
Well, and Mark told me a few things too, and I'm like, your strategy sucked. Like, if you want to woo your wife, that's not how you do it.
Totally.
No. It was just it was messy.
I could tell when I was talking to Mark about it that deep in there was this, around that affection kind of stuff. It was a massive level of insecurity, and then a refusal to like say I need anything. Like
Yes.
there's just this ego masking over the insecurity.
Yes. Like, I think he was really scarred from his dad not being around and then his ex-wife leaving. And he just got to this point where people were fairly disposable to him.
Right. Yep.
And,
That's a good way of putting it, because that's exactly.
yeah. And I think to a certain degree, he has to kind of like work on that even now.
I said it. I mean, I know it sounds like I might be over exaggerating, but I was at a level you can't come back from. There's no redemption.
Well, that's not true. There's redemption.
But there is coming to peace with you. You can accept your past. A lot of people say, I'm so broken, I have no way out, right? That's not true. You have to just begin at a new moment. But you never can fix the past. You never can fix what you've done. You got to leave it. You got to leave it at the door and quit letting it control your life.
Right.
And so many people I talk to, that they just can't leave it. They can't leave it alone. They can't be sorry enough. They can't be whatever it is. And it just controls everything they do. And with me, there's no forgiveness. There's no way. And what Amy has been able to do in my mind is just, this Mark was he stopped right here at this point.
Right. Old Mark.
But here's what's really bad. I'm going to throw myself under the bus. She said that multiple times. I didn't just do it once. I did it multiple times. So she had thought she had cured me one time, or thought I was a different person. And then I would fall down again, and I'd fall down again. And so it was a ladder, man. It was a terrible ladder that I made her climb. And the fact that she did not leave, it's unbelievable. Really, it's really unbelievable. And so even today, I mean, the demons are there. But I used to have to get, and this is where I think she's getting, you have to have an outlet for these, now I needed an outlet. I don't know, everybody has their way, right?
Yeah.
But my way was not, I needed to immerse myself in some, like an adventure that filled my cup. Like, it had to have all the things. It had to have the little bit of risk. It had to have something be hard. It had to be hard. It had to be difficult. It had to be all the things. And I've always been a hunter, from the beginning, and it's, but I needed that cup filled in another way, a more productive way. And she realized it, even before I did.
So I think when you sometimes people are so broken they can't even see their way out of their brokenness. And so, we he was working a lot before we moved to Montana. So all this happened, when people tell me that they're struggling in their marriage or whatever. I mean, we struggled for like 12 years. I mean, most of the time before we moved to Montana was very up and down. It was a long time. And, once Eli was born, so neither one of us grew up with that foundational faith and that foundation of support that you got from your church, just like speaking a foundation of wisdom, truth and wisdom, like biblical wisdom. That's how I define wisdom now. Is it going to line up with the Bible? That if you tell me, give me some advice, I'm going to put it up against the Bible. That's how I define wisdom. So we didn't. Fortunately, when I was younger, I had a boyfriend and his dad was a pastor. And so I did have I followed for a while and then I kind of got off track. And that's when I met Mark and I'm like, well, I'm off track anyway. Let's just keep going. Anyway.
But you had a benchmark to contrast. Okay. I lived life, in the path over here under God's will and all that. And then I tried life over here. I think people who have experimented or lived each way, it becomes really clear that obeying and following God and putting your faith in the path that like Christ has laid out, there's a clear difference in contentment, happiness, joy, meaning.
Yes. And so once we miraculously got pregnant and had Eli and really felt like
that was one of the blessings. That was one of the milestone moments. We were literally, I would say, this close. I was checked out.
So let me tell you this. So when we were going through this unfaithfulness, right? We were both kind of looking for a way out, right? Because it was so bad. And that if your spouse cheats on you, you can get out.
It's sabotage. You sabotage your relationship.
Yeah.
Now there's not. You don't have to actually have a discussion. You can just be like, "Well, it's obvious."
Yeah.
Yes. And so
I hate it. I've had some friends, and I'm like, it's one of my pet peeves is, look, if you want a divorce, then man up and divorce.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to look. This isn't, but to go out and just like sabotage it and then go, well, I guess we just need a divorce. I'm like, I get upset because I feel like what you did was just sort of weak.
Yeah.
You're not a man. Remember I said earlier, you were a loser.
Like, go out and like I have had some of the men I've met and or the wife. It's like, look, this isn't working.
Sometimes those wives don't like Brian so much.
And then and they've parted ways like a man, responsibly, they do their best. The other way is, well, let's just separate and then let's just I don't know, I kissed this girl and oh wait, and then 2 years later it's divorce time. It's like, you didn't actually be a man. You just sort of
made it easier. Just
drifted around and never was decisive, never controlled. You at the time you were still married. Like, to me, there's a marriage means something. And so if you're gonna break that vow or that promise, if you're gonna end it, you need to officially end it before you go and violate what it means to be married. You know what I mean?
Well, remember, marriage means something to you because you have a model of marriage.
Absolutely.
Your parents were pretty amazing, right? I had a train wreck of a marriage. My definition of marriage was like, are you kidding me? That's just like a girlfriend. It's no different than a girlfriend. I mean, I'm not even joking.
Right.
No, I
looked at marriage like, it goes till it goes, and
we ride that train till we get off.
Oh, my mom never listens to this. My mom's been married 4 times. My dad's been married 3 times.
Yeah.
There's a few in my family stayed married, but a lot haven't.
When you were talking to Amy about, the whole wisdom and God and stuff. And you said you did pray a little bit, like separately though. Where was Mark's faith in? When did Mark develop some degree of accountability to?
Well, once we had Eli, we had gone
You
to
said
church.
you were this close.
Oh yeah, when
Eli's
I got
kind of
pregnant.
a miracle.
Well,
So
when I got
let's
pregnant,
back up. So Amy's supposed, since her cancer, she wasn't really supposed to be able to get pregnant,
Right.
and we really weren't taking any. I mean, we would never took any precautions,
Right.
And it just wasn't going to happen.
Wow. That's
And I'm literally on a boys. This is how bad it was getting. I'm on an all boys ski trip out in Colorado with my posse, and I get a call from Amy. She says she's pregnant. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, you're not pregnant. I think I can see the plus or whatever it is on the little thing. You need to get another one because there's no way. How can you? I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I look back on that. How can you be upset because your wife is pregnant?
when you went out,
It was one of my low moments.
yeah.
It's embarrassing to even say this. One of my lower moments was when she told me she was pregnant. I'm like, I'm stuck now. For a while. For a while. I'm not kidding. That's what's in my head. I'm going to have to hang around for a while at least. It's sick. But this is what men can let their minds, this is where you can go. These are the dark places that you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And I quickly came out of that. I mean, I had moments of, and then I was happy about it, right? And but there was moments right at that moment because I mean we were literally finished in my mind.
And before I got pregnant, I had an affair. And I really didn't know much about what Mark was doing. I had one friend who she had her own affairs, and she's like, "Your husband's definitely sleeping with so and so and so and so." And I was like, "No, I don't know that he is." And she's like, "Yeah, he is." And I was like, and anyway, all that to say, when you've seen it, you can see it. So she could see it. Anyway, it was when I was pregnant that I found out the
details.
Yeah. And you told me, I think because he realized, all right, here we are. Like
the way out of this, right?
Yeah. But
and
There's also
in my mind, I really believe this in my heart at the time. I'm like, you can do this, Mark. You do a lot of hard things. You can turn this train wreck around.
But you have to tell the truth.
Because
if you didn't tell Amy, you'd be building this whole thing on a lie. It would just end anyway.
Yeah.
But I thought at the time, though, seriously, I can turn this around. I can be the man that I need to be. And I really believed it. And then I wasn't.
Why did you want to all of a sudden?
Because I mean, I have a chance to redo what I already lost before with my daughter.
Right.
And I got a chance. I got a redo. Right. We didn't think we were going to have kids, and I got this redo, and I committed. I mean, for a short period of time. I mean, not that short, but I mean, I really, really, really believed I wasn't playing games.
Yeah.
And then, I struggled. I kept struggling a little bit.
But that was a real God moment for me because we were on the verge, right?
Right.
And the question came into my mind, why would God give us a child if we're supposed to get a divorce?
Right.
That makes no sense to me. No sense. That just no sense. And so we have Eli, and once he's born, I say to him, Mark, I say, we've pretty much messed up everything in our life to this point. I really don't want to miss this gift that we've been given up.
Right.
I think we should go to church and see God has given this to us. I think we should go to church and see what God wants us to do. And miraculously, he goes, I do too. And I was like,
because I just told you at that moment, I was all in.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in.
That's crazy that you're like in that place going, yeah, let's go to church.
How weird is that for you guys to hear, though, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, that's the right move. But I'm thinking,
Well,
from
children
that,
will thrive with structure.
yes.
And
but I'm thinking in that situation, in that place, why would you make that choice? You know, like what?
It was like
Just a feeling.
Yeah, I mean,
or,
guys, I mean, I know you can say what you want to say, but it was probably one of the few moments in my life that I was ready to do it.
Yeah.
I grew up in church, kind of. My mom, God bless her. I hope she never listens to this.
Your mom is a great mom.
My mom, great. You know, she was armed with the tools that she had. That's all she had.
Yeah.
Yeah, she worked hard.
She grew up in no
Great
church,
example
no
of that.
nothing, but she knew we needed it. But I think my mom thought she was broken too.
Yeah.
So my mom would put us on the church bus, but she didn't go.
Yeah.
And we would go with my other family members.
It sounds so Missouri.
It is
Oh,
Missouri.
yeah.
And the church bus would drive around, pick up all the
Southern
kids.
Missouri.
Yeah.
Like redneck Missouri.
Yeah, like total.
Oh, I'm talking in tongues.
A little bit of trailer
Foot
trash in
motions.
Missouri.
I mean, wild church services I've been to, right? And but man, when I got out of it, I was out of it. Like, you know, I don't want to say I hated God, but I was like, you obviously aren't looking out for me.
You're not going to go down.
And it's different. And you guys know this. It's different when you have a foundation of the family around you. I mean, even I'm sure your girls sometimes don't want to go. And you're like, guess what? This is what the calls do. We go to church.
Yeah.
It's different when it's a foundation that they sit upon
Right.
versus just something that you
Let's
get kind of
try.
thrown into.
Yeah.
Not that that's, I mean, we still have, that's how people stick who weren't thrown into it.
Right.
But it's just harder to stick with it, I guess, you know?
Like I said, when you have a foundation, when you have two lifestyles to reflect upon,
Yes.
the one where I, tried to be honest, live a moral life, do what God wants, and then there's the pathway over here. Well, which way was I more fulfilled and happy and joyous? And it's like, wow, the contrast is pretty clear.
Yeah.
It just is, and it's counterintuitive to the carnal side of our nature, right? Because it's like, hey, I want all the chicks, I want to go all the parties, I want to do, and how good this like hedonistic pleasure center is good. And then you wake up the next day and you hate yourself and you're shallow and you're empty and you haven't done anything meaningful. And it's like, actually, it's the discipline of trying to live a moral existence that fulfills you in a way that no amount of pleasure seeking can rival.
Absolutely. And so, once we started to go back to church, we ran these businesses. We had our event production company and we had running stores, and we were just working like dogs, both of us, really.
And that's here in Montana?
No, that
That's
was in Missouri
Okay.
still. And so I eventually, I think once Emmy was born, said, you know what? I'm going all into this church thing, to loving Jesus. I'm all in. And so that meant that Emmy was in daycare at the time. And I remember somebody asking me what time she napped. And I was like, I don't know. She goes to daycare. I don't know. and I was shocked by that because I thought,
I'm her mother.
yes.
Yeah.
And somebody else knows her way better than me. And this is the only shot I've got with her. And so I said, you know what? I'm not working full time anymore. I'm out. I'm working 3 days a week. And what that allowed me to do was to be with the kids, but it also allowed me to pull back from our chaos that we'd lived in forever and to read my Bible. And just sometimes you have to pull back to see what's going on, right?
Yes.
And so I could pull back and I could see where we needed to go because I was following the Lord and because I kind of gave everything to him. I could see, and I could see that he was still working like a dog, didn't know his way out, didn't realize how broken he still was, and that things needed to change. And, you know, when God made woman, he said, I'll make a helper for man, right? And that word helper means divine helper. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so even though Mark was still broken, I mean, you know, there's this awakening inside me that says, I was made as his divine helper. And if I'm not going to help him be unbroken, who will? Right? Who will? And if this is my Eli in 10 years, who's going to help him? What do I want someone to treat him like? Right? Do I want them just to leave him broken? No, I want them to fight to the end to help him. So I could see all of that in Mark. And the other thing is, when you go through dating with all those red flags, I could wake up and go, you know who you picked. You picked him, right?
Well, I was going to say, too, you know, they got to break the emotional situation. When women, particularly, in my opinion, and I have a lot of experience in this, they love the idea of the bad boy. They like the idea of the reckless, abandoned, live on the edge, exciting bad boy.
Yeah.
But that boy comes with a price.
Yeah.
And Amy, I think, liked that. Amy was I saw her boyfriends. They're kind of losers. And
not all of them.
She was a pretty goody two shoe. Her parents were married. I mean, good home, no struggles. I mean, went to college. Everything. Dad and mom paid for everything to go to college. Never really wanted anything. Not as bad as my ex-wife, but pretty close. And here comes Mark, completely broken, living on the edge, bad boy to the nth degree.
Well, not to the extent at that point, because you were successful.
No, but I was a go-getter, right? I was not a loser, like, and that was a part of the attraction, right? I was
being a provider.
I lived on the edge, but I also was like capable.
Together. Yeah.
Remember, I said I'm a pretty capable dude, and I'm blessed with that, incredibly blessed with that, and I used it to my advantage. But I also use that capability in bad ways too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very capable of lots of bad things. And so she was excited about that, but like she said, she knew what she was getting into right off the bat.
Well, and I think that a lot of women have this, they like to fix tame the beast, like Beauty and the Beast. That's just a classic tale. Similar things, right? Like the beast is what he is, strong and all that kind of stuff. And then she can come along but I think that story is an archetypal story because it's real. What you just said, Amy, is real. That in that story, Beauty and the Beast was nothing without her there to bring him into control, where he could be a much more successful being than he was before. And when you were talking about that, I think so often that is what men need, but they don't have that female power in their life. Mm-hmm. And instead they have a toxic version of that female.
Well, and I would just want to say we all have that toxicness in us, right? Mm-hmm. And the only way we tame it is, and Suzanne's a Bible reader too, is you tame it because of what the Lord directs you to do, and his forgiveness within you, right?
But your thought was, it's interesting. You're thinking about your son, and if he were on that path that Mark was on, how you would have wanted a woman in his life that would go the distance.
Yeah,
with him.
Yeah. And, you know, we can look back now and, you know, this is the power of faith. And a lot of people will tell me now, like, that, my faith is fairly inspirational. And it's because of the fact that, you know, we went through all of this, and when you experience forgiveness with one another, so the whole gospel story, if anybody doesn't know it, is that while we are yet sinners with the toxicness in us, Jesus died to forgive us for our sins. He was merciful, even when we are super ugly. And when you can do that for one another, when you can have that great mercy on one another and then move forward together, like, I mean, I was just thinking about it. I mean, I don't know what could break us now. I just don't. And I also know.
You said that. Never know what I'm going to do next.
Oh.
Just kidding.
You know, I will never have any regrets about what we did, how we've gone through it. I mean, I have regrets about what we did, but how we've progressed, you know, further. So let me tell you where hunting comes in to this, because it is a hunting podcast. But when we were in Missouri, and he was just working like a dog. So we own an event production company, which means we put on triathlons, marathons. So I always joke, because it's hard work, that I had kids so that I wouldn't have to go to the events anymore. And it's worked. It's worked really well. They're like, yeah, I'm almost useless to them. And so he would get up, you know, leave on Fridays, set up all day Saturday, get up at 2 a.m. on Sunday to, you know, put the marathon on, work in Missouri heat until 5, and then drive back from some other city, come home exhausted, eat out of gas stations.
Yeah.
And then he would get up and go to work on Monday and do the whole thing again. Right.
Yeah.
And at the time we had just had these kids, and I'm like, this is and you can just see him drowning. And I would try to get him to downsize the business. And he's always, you know, no, we can't do that, because then somebody else is going to get in the market. We just got to keep going. You know, it's all the things you can hear him saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. All the things. And so finally I got him to go. We went on a 2-week vacation to Colorado. And on the way home, I think just that time away, he was a little bit more open. And he was doing nothing to fill his cup. Like, he used to do triathlons. He wasn't doing triathlons anymore, probably because I was faster than him at that point. I like to say that. But, and I just said, why don't we move somewhere where you can hunt? Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, well, that sounds great. And I said, well, I'll go wherever, right? Wherever you want to go, we got to go. Let's go. And he picked Missoula, and, you know, we were doing some consulting with our business at the time, and the guy, I told him that we were going to be moving and how all the pieces had just fallen into place. And he said, you know, when God sees that you are moving for your marriage, He is going to move mountains for you. And we had a running store. We had 3 running stores at the time. One of them was losing $6,000 a month. And we had to get rid of it. And another company came and took it over. We didn't lie to him about it. We didn't even lie. We said it's losing $6,000 a month. And they came and, okay. Yeah, we had a house that needed to be sold. We had all these pieces that needed to be into place, and God moved all of it. And then when we got here, we had so many friends, like right off the bat, people who had solid foundations, who our friends.
We couldn't meet a non-Christian.
And when I say Christians, I don't mean the ones that just go to church and check the box. Right. I mean the ones who are doing foster care, and they're adopting children, and they're serving the community, and they're doing all the things that they can do. And God just provided for us so
sounds like
amazingly.
Yeah, divine intervention.
Absolutely. And so it's just, I just know that. So where you asked me where his faith was. So prior to me kind of saying that, I mean, you were going to church, but it was still, he didn't have time.
I was checking the box.
You cannot have time to know the Lord, right? If you're too busy, you can't do it. And so he just, I don't know, he couldn't do it, but he wasn't putting him, you have to put yourself in the position to hear from the Lord. You don't just always hear, right? There's too many other voices.
You have to seek him out.
Right. And so, by moving here, moving mountains to get here, he was able to have the space to realize what he was missing and to put ourselves into all these communities that could bolster who he really was as a man and who God made him to be as a man, right? He talked a little bit about his wild spirit. And again, Satan wants to use it for evil. God can use it for good. But you got to put yourself in those places, right? Mm-hmm. So I just feel like when we turned back to the Lord, listened, you just almost couldn't go wrong, and, he mentioned that it didn't happen just once, God says, and Mark was truly repentant. It's just, like he said, it's a ladder, it's a digging out, and he had to dig out, we had to dig out, and we still have to be careful about what we do, right? It's still it's not perfect all the time, but we continue to put ourselves purposely in places that are going to protect that and nourish it. He goes with you guys. That's great, right? We go to church.
Yeah.
All the things. It is. I mean, who better to hang out with than the guy who didn't sleep with his wife beforehand, never drank, never smoked? I'm like, please go see Brian. Hang out a lot.
So it'll be like, you need to hang with Brian again.
Yeah, that's funny.
You're slipping.
I would say that it's been a blessing to have Mark in our lives, and I've really enjoyed, hunting this year. I was with Mark when he shot his biggest buck so far.
Yes.
And Eli shot his first deer. It's funny because when I hung out with Mark, and you experience Mark, and he's uplifting, he's generous with his knowledge. He truly is out there to try to help other people grow. You see him taking the time to spend time with his children, going out with you in the summertime and getting out, got the llamas, the family is doing family things, and you hang out. I didn't know. So the only Mark I've known is this sort of great Mark. I didn't know the a-hole Mark. I didn't know
the evil Mark,
the dark Mark, so it's funny because when Mark started to tell me this stuff, I'm like, really? And I think it's a wonderful example because, Mark, you're saying earlier that there's no forgiveness. Well, I think there's no forgetting.
Right.
But
that's a better way of putting it.
It's always there.
There is forgiveness, obviously, because I'm experiencing it.
Yeah, because you're like, this is the old Mark. He's dead. This is the new Mark, When
I'm talking about forgiveness, I'm mainly talking about myself forgiving. I have a hard time with that. Like, it's such an atrocity.
Yeah.
In my life that I had to just cut it off. Like, I can't dwell on it. I can't be
right. You can't revisit that because,
like you said it better. Forgiveness is not a good word. It's like I have to channel it, but I don't want to forget it because now that is what I rely on. Well, I know how bad it was, and I know how bad I can be. And it's my power now.
The thing is, I can't.
It's a really powerful source for me.
Often when I'm talking to people, I can't talk to people who are in that place in the same way, because I haven't been there. I can only tell you from the perspective I'm at and what I know. I think that's why, like, a recovering alcoholic, right? They have a lot more to offer. Someone who's really got their life together and they haven't touched a bottle in, 20 years. They can help that person that has that same struggle. I can't relate. I don't know that struggle. I can only tell you what I do know. And so I think it's actually an incredible, in some ways, it's an incredible gift to others.
Well, now we made the decision. We really didn't share this story that much.
It's hard to share at first.
This is not an easy thing to admit on camera, right?
Yeah.
Because I know all you guys watch it and just think of me as like this total badass. And now you see the human side, and but guys, you were saying you can't relate, but you can, because your story and your path is inspiring and redemptive. And people need to hear both sides, right? I think people that are broken, if they only hear broken stories, they always measure themselves against it. Like, well, I used to do this. I'm not as bad as that guy. So there's some justification for me, right? And then I hear you guys story. I'm like, holy. I'm like, I can't. I'm not even in the league. I'm not even in the minor leagues, And so it's good for both. It's good to have both. But I decided, Amy started writing the blog to kind of put out her emotions about it and help her heal from it, I think.
Well, I started writing about following the Lord. And then
stories about what led us, right?
Right.
And she would always send them to me. She goes, I want you to read this before I put this out, because you're kind of going under the bus again. And I'm like, at first I was like, oh man, because I'm pretty prideful.
Yeah.
And but then I came to the realization that if I can keep a few people or one or two from going down this path,
Right.
then it's a winner. It's a win.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
And so I've been pretty open about it here.
Right.
later in
life.
It's hard to talk about. And I think that, a couple things. I mean, it's in Psalms, it said, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story.
Yeah.
And God uses your stories, right? Because I know when we were going through it, it's this question of, it's very lonely. Who do you tell that this is going on?
Mm-hmm.
You certainly, I'll tell you who I didn't tell. I didn't tell my mom and my dad. You think my dad's going to come over to our house after this?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So you have like this
Maybe
dark.
with the gun.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, I'm not telling. I told some of my, a couple of my friends or whatever, but, the other piece that I hope people get from this is that God can redeem a lot, but he doesn't always do it. Like, you don't pray for this to be redeemed and it's redeemed. Like, I prayed, one of the prayers I prayed, I remember it was, fix me, fix him. I don't know who's broken, but fix this. And then what happened? Oh, we have all this adultery in our story. And we had to go through all of that stuff to actually get to the redemption. It took a long time. But when you work through all of it,
yeah,
it's like doing an Ironman. Like, you go through all of these things, and when you get to the end, we're not at the end.
It's progression. But, you're just a different person now because you fought through it all.
Absolutely.
When you hunting, did you? You were mentioning how you had this inspiration, or you just kind of knew that if Mark lived where he could hunt a lot, that it would. How did you know that would be a impactful? Like, what was it?
Well, there's a couple of things. I guess he had mainly two hobbies since I'd known him. He did triathlons and he was hunting, and he wasn't doing either one of those. And he needed something to fill his cup. And I think I had asked him, if you could choose one or the other, what would it be? And he said hunting. And he hadn't gone, when we first got married, he would go to Colorado, he'd spend 3 weeks. And he hadn't done that in years. And I couldn't get him to do it. And so I just knew that, and a big runner. I'm not a huge self-care person, but I'm also realize that we all have to have these pieces of ourselves that we do that we really love, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't getting to do any of those. So I think it was that. And then the other thing is, I guess it's just that realizing that men and women are equal but different. And that I think now a lot of times we shove men in these little boxes, like go to work all day, come home, help take care of the kids. And you guys just have a wilder side to you. You need to, and especially this one, I mean, I'd seen what he did with his wildness when he didn't have good outlets, right? You have the need to prove yourself. You need to, I'm seeing this in Eli. He has a need to compete, to kill something, those things. He needs it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Different than me. I mean, different than my Emmy. Emmy, let's just look at a 10-year-old soccer game. Emmy's like, oh, you fell down. We're like, get the ball, right? Where she's consoling this girl on the other team and picking her up. And Eli's probably like, I'm probably going to kick you if you fall down, right? Totally different. Right. And so just allowing, I just felt like if he had these wild spaces, he would be able to heal.
You know, Suzanne, I think, recognized the same thing in me because from the start, she just sent me on my way.
Yeah. She talked about how, you know, and I think we hear this a lot. People will say, well, why do you let him do that? And I'm like, right. What do you mean? Why? Well, one, I don't let Mark do anything. Like he's got a pretty strong personality and we just don't have that tension anymore. Like I know a lot of people kind of, when they get married, they think it's 50-50. And if you go do that, then I'm going to need to leave for 3 weeks and that's not going to work. And so we can't really do that.
Right. And sometimes the money doesn't pan out to be able to do both.
No.
Yeah.
And so you just give.
Yep.
Just give without counting.
Right.
Right.
And also he gets that time away and he comes back better and recharged and happy and
horny. That's for sure. Yeah. I've noticed that over time as Suzanne, when it was before hunting and it was other career choices and we need to move here and we need to do that and I need to pursue this challenge, she's like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
From the start, she just always had done that. There was a time when she had cancer, and I was doing the work, pay the bills, build an empire, build wealth, you know. And my sort of conquer the world thing was largely financially driven, work up the corporate ladder kind of.
There wasn't a lot of balance.
Yeah.
It was just all work.
Yeah.
And
you guys are good at getting yourselves into that.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that are like.
Well, she has to go and get cancer. And then that sort of like makes me rethink the things that matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I figured out really fast that, oh man, like 90% of what I was doing meant nothing.
Didn't
and
matter.
if Suzanne wasn't there to share it with, and if Suzanne passed away and I had 3 daughters by myself, I did not care about the money at all or the wealth and sorry. So we went through the chemo thing, and at first I was angry because I felt like, you know, Suzanne was 35 and she always did everything right, and so did I. There was sort of a sense of, you know, betrayal, like God betrayed me. Like I did everything you asked.
Yeah.
And this wasn't fair. I was really angry at the time. And then one day it kind of came to a head where someone had said something to me. I think honestly that was something that I needed to hear desperately.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized at that moment that that I needed to just kind of hand it all over to God. Okay, fine. It's your way. I'll accept it. If, you know, the heart of bitterness sort of immediately disappeared. And all of a sudden I was fine. I was like, okay, well, you know, if she doesn't pull through and the chemo doesn't work and so on, well, I wouldn't change anything. And I'm so grateful that this was the woman that I got to spend time with. I wouldn't change it for these 3 kids that are still here, that are like my joy. There's so much in life to look forward to, even if she's gone, that I was letting the bitterness destroy what was still there, you know, and all of a sudden it just lifted. And I was once I turned to God and just sort of handed it over, I'll accept your will and I'll do it your way, it all went away. Like almost immediately, there's a sense of peace. And then we went through it, and I never shared any of it with Suzanne or anyone. I kept it very private.
Yeah, he
because
kept
as
it
a
locked
man
down around me. He was only strong
but
around me.
but as a man, that's
Yeah.
your job to be frank. That's how it should be. You know, we're all told we should just tell everybody all our problems and blah 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 blah. And I think, no, there's a time for you to be the strong one, and that you're not going to let your kids or your wife or others see that part. Later, it was fine, and it was something worth talking about. But at the time, there was a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
And as she was wrapping up her chemo, we were driving home, and she was probably a couple months away, or I don't remember, somewhere near being finished. And we were driving down the road, and she's like, look at that sweet Jeep. You see that Jeep over there? And it's this sweet Jeep Rubicon. And she always liked Jeeps.
I used to have a gold Sahara.
And she was
And
like,
I had to give it up when we had children.
and I told her I would get her another Jeep down the road, you know, don't worry about it and stuff.
We'll get another one someday.
So she's like, you see that Jeep over there? I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. She's like, yeah. And this is just, we're on the way home from another chemo appointment. She's near death, you know, sick.
Did you buy the Jeep?
And she's like, man, wouldn't it be a shame if I died before you bought me a Jeep?
I don't even remember saying this, but I must have.
And I was like,
Oh,
I was like,
I'm on the hook.
so
for a Jeep
that day
today.
I just went out and
bought the
bought a
Jeep.
Jeep. I just started looking
He
for
like
the
looked
Jeep.
for one, and then he's like, "Let's go check out this dealership." And I'm like, "Are you serious?"
Because the money didn't matter anymore.
No.
Right.
All that money I was hoarding and building wealth, I was like, now let's go spend it. And we bought the Jeep. And
I think some people call this like midlife crisis.
Yeah,
Let's go buy a sports car.
we did that though, and it was great. And all of a sudden, the things I wanted to do with my time were different. I wanted to do things that I felt were more meaningful. I wanted to film some of my hunts. I wanted to tell some stories, maybe do some podcasting. And I had a great job that paid well, but I started to invest my energy into things that were meaningful and fulfilling. I got rid of the real estate ventures. I just did my job sort of 2 or 3 days a week, and then I did other interests. And when I did that, I never planned to launch a podcast or gritty films or anything like that. I just was doing meaningful activities. I was filming, I was hanging out, I was having fun. I still had my other job, and I didn't have any plans of it being a career path. I just was doing, no longer like buried in making money and like wheeling and dealing and all. Like, I let it go. And when I started doing things that were much more fulfilling and meaningful to me, didn't feel it, because I wasn't getting paid for anything. It was just something I enjoyed.
Right.
A year in, it had become, the podcast I had started had become much more impactful and meaningful. And but it actually started to become, at first people came to me and said, we want to pay you for this. And I said, no, I don't want to be paid. I don't want it to mess up with this hobby. You know, this isn't about money. But 6 months goes by, 8 months goes by, a year goes by, and all of a sudden it's now people are coming to me with options for big checks. You know, the checks I denied 6 months ago have now doubled. And so I was like, well,
And this all started like I was
During-
the tail end, I think, probably 2/3 of the way through.
yeah, during
And
her-
he comes to me and goes, I think I want to start a podcast.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I think I want to start this podcast and just see where it goes. But I'm going to be serious about this. I'm going to commit to a year really working at this. And I'm like, go for it, honey.
Yeah.
Like, sure.
do it.
Yeah. See what happens.
It's funny how like the crises in your life lead you into like realizing what is actually important, right? Not a lot matters if she's gone, things change drastically. If we get a divorce, like a lot rides just on, well, let me say it a different way. If we lose our house,
Mhm.
if we, the world goes to crud, but we're still together, that's still a good thing.
Right.
That's
right?
what I said to Brian. I said, honey, when I married you, I didn't know what you'd be, and I'd be happy selling pencils on the side of the road with you.
Yeah, at that point I had her. I was like, if she's willing to live off the sales of pencils.
Yes.
So
He brings that up all the time. I never said I was going to make a bunch of money.
I said I'd sell pencils.
you
And
said
you'd be
this.
happy.
Yeah. And I feel like we've lived on that sort of income at times. But yeah, I think after that, I told her she finished chemo, and the podcast had done the thing that I didn't expect it to do. I sacrificed things like all the going to the beach and lifting weights and like all the stuff I had been doing with all my time, which was pretty just my own thing, to this hobby thing on the side. But I came to her and I said, I want to quit my job, and we'll make like 70% of our current income, but I'll do something I love to do. And she's like, oh yeah, quit your job, dude.
But then that also, in long term, a little longer term, meant we were also going to have to sell our house.
Mm-hmm.
And I
I'm
was like, let's do it.
Yeah. And I said, and we're going to move. And she's like, okay. And every step along the way, she believed in
what you're doing. And that's where the magic is, right?
Yeah.
Right? I feel like a lot of times in marriage, there's just this tension of me wanting to do this and you wanting to do this, and everybody's pulling.
Right.
And the reality is, people don't like, to think about it, but somebody's we gotta go together. We gotta line in together. And that means that I don't always fight for what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. And I feel like, when he submitted his first film into Full Draw Film Tour, they were like, oh, you need a logo. And it was like it was as exciting for me as it was for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, you need a logo? I went to school and I learned about logos. And like, I made his logo, his first one for Gritty Bowman.
Yep.
And we tweaked it and messed with it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
And what happened there is, if she had said, no, I don't like that, I'm not comfortable with it, we just can't do it, I just said, okay. It was the instant, and because I was not at all deeply committed to this idea. I was in fact giving it to her to expect it to be probably shot down, because that's a sensible thing, like who's
But
gonna
we're both
quit?
creative people.
Who's
so,
gonna? I went to my boss and I said, yeah, I'm gonna quit my job, and he said, what are you gonna do? And I'm like, I'm gonna be a podcaster.
He's like, okay, way to go, dude.
I know. Way to live the life.
I'm like a director at this corporate, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a podcaster. It's like a midlife crisis type move, right? But the thing was, when I told Suzanne, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I think I'm gonna do, and she was like, oh yeah, I think you could do it. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you should. This is totally in your wheelhouse. Like,
this was not the most outlandish idea. He came to me.
I had other ones.
With a
this
treehouse
too.
With a treehouse idea. We're going to build a treehouse and live in it while he was taking a break.
Did
from
you know
school.
they lived in a treehouse? Yeah, you guys
and
know everything.
I went to school for interior design. I'm like, hey, as long as I get to design everything.
Yeah, it was a
and it was, I think, 8 or 9 years stint in the treehouse.
I kind of want to live in a tree house.
Yeah, and
I feel like that'd be fun.
it was pretty cool.
yeah,
Maybe when we retire.
I knew she was a sucker when she was willing to live in a tree.
I told my father about it, and he thought we were just lost our minds.
Well, yeah.
He's like, you guys have turned into tree huggers out there in
like,
Oregon.
who lives in a tree house?
That's a
You
picture.
guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's pretty amazing.
It was pretty.
Yeah, I was like, I want to live in a treehouse. I got this construction company. I'm like, we could do this, and she's like, oh, we could. And so then we designed it.
We had an amazing neighbor who was a welder and a designer also, and he helped us with a bunch of stuff.
But I don't know. With my crazy ideas, Suzanne was like always willing to go along and support me in it. In fact, encourage me to do it. And I look back on it, and if she had, I wouldn't have I had a great job. I wasn't really, I don't really want to quite make that change. I was split either way. And if she had been like, let's just stay in this beautiful house we have and this income we have.
To this date, it's still my favorite house we ever had. Wish I could have picked it up and moved it, but
I know. We both have like kind of those feelings about that place in our life. But looking at it now, it's like her support of everything all along the way is how I've been able to have such an incredible life and story to tell. And what that's done too is, I look at it and I'm thinking, sometimes I feel like I'm the one that goes on these adventures. I'm the one that has met all these people and done these things, and while Suzanne's raising children at home. And there are times where I'm like struggling with, I feel like I'm the one that
gets to do the fun
got
stuff.
to do all the cool stuff while she is at home working, raising kids and
I never.
But
felt
you don't
that
think
way.
that. I don't either. Like,
never
he
felt
goes
that
a
way
lot,
about-
but I think, well, I get to stay with our children. What a gift.
How blessed are we?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't ever think that son of
Oh,
a
now we have 3 teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, and every time we go out to, like, I always take her to these really hostile places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I never want to go.
The last trip we were on, we were an hour in at Grizzly came through camp, and we packed up and went out. So I'm like, I make it less glamorous.
Yeah, so I don't actually want to go. And I'm like, no, I'll just stay home. I'm good with it.
It's funny, Brian.
That is extreme.
So
He's so extreme.
for me,
Yeah,
Amy
it
didn't
is
elaborate
extreme.
on this very much, but I was building an empire, right, in this event business. We went from 50 to 150 events to 170 some events, doing 8, 9 events in one weekend. All these staff, warehouse equipment, trucks, just all this stuff. I wanted to be the top of the food chain in the event business. That's the way I am.
Right.
I would have never, ever made that move without her forcing the issue. No matter how much I loved Western hunting, no matter how much I loved the West, no matter how much, I don't think I would have done it, or I would have waited so long. My only regret that I have is that we were set up, we could have done it 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
And our life would have been even way better because we would have cut out 10 years,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And, but she told me, she didn't really elaborate on that very much, but when we were driving back, she says, we're leaving on March 18th.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about that because I had
She
heard
gave
this.
a date.
Dang.
And I was like, okay.
She's like, here's your deadline.
and I'm
Wow.
like, and she hit me, like she said, she got me at the right moment. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I was ready to say yes.
Was
I-
this premeditated?
I think it was inspired.
So anyway,
little
a little time goes
Let's
by.
butter
right?
him up.
And
providential.
and I'm not doing anything. A little time goes by. And I remember saying something, I don't know if this is the exact quote. She says, hey, what do you got done? I'm like, what do you mean I got done? I mean, March 18th. I mean,
We're moving.
What do you got done? We're leaving. I'm
Yeah.
like, are you serious? She goes, oh yeah. She goes, you got businesses to sell. You got to wrap this operation up.
You've got the house to fix up.
You got to get this work done. You got to get, and then I'm like, that was the moment I was like, it was like a couple months after we'd been back. I was like,
wow,
shit, I got to get this done. And I did. I mean, I worked hard and we hadn't even sold our house yet. And I said, well, I need one of our houses. I don't care. Well, we can't just leave it. We got a pretty big, expensive house. I'm like, she's like, we're leaving it. I'm like, what if we don't sell this store? I don't care. Shut the doors, lock the doors.
totally.
I'm like,
wow.
Well, what if we don't sell all
She
the
was
inventory?
all in.
Well,
Yeah, she's all
Amy,
in.
how did you just know you had to do that, or you wouldn't do it, or were you just?
she stuck to her guns.
I mean, there was just an assurance in me. Like, again, I caught him at the right moment. He was ready to go too. And so, I mean, there's just a few times in life where you're just really clear, right? You're really clear that this is what we need to do. And it felt right to me. And I mean, some of those things were kind of falling into place. And so it was moving that direction. It was just more like I had to say, okay, now this one and this one, because we're doing this.
So the real estate market at the time wasn't amazing at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember going down to, we were going to try to do it for sell by owner for a little bit, right?
We did do it for sale
That's
by
what I'm
owner.
saying. We decided to just see what happens for a little bit. I literally drove down the end of our driveway, put the sign out there. The guy was driving by while I was putting the sign out, calls. He's on his way to Hawaii.
No way.
Yeah, and they said, we got to see it before we go. And what? I'm like, we got floors tore up. We got doorknobs off. They came in and bought it.
That's
Crazy.
amazing.
And you know, we moved here and had no place to live.
We have a close friend. It's sort of he's been a mentor throughout my life. About the time we got married, we've spent a lot of time. We'd read Bible together with Arnie and Sharon Chupp. They're good friends of ours. And one time we were sitting there talking, and he made a comment like, you know, like as you get older and you look back on your life, you know, and you know, I'm almost 50, Mark, so you know, I'm old now. But as you get older, and you know, and you are aware of God's existence, you can look back on your life from the start, and you can see how little changes in your road. It's almost plain as day now to look back and see the hand of the Lord, like making things
Small
go a certain
adjustments.
way.
Yes.
As you tried to serve, he did things to maneuver you where he needed you to be. And I can look back and I can feel as though so much of where I am today, I can see it, you know, like as clear moments in time where it was like, yeah, that was this, this was divine here and here and here to this point, you know, with clarity. It's kind of interesting. You look back and you're telling your story and it's like, oh yeah, you had a role to fulfill and you turned to the Lord and he made things happen.
You made your path straight.
You know, I love that but it's two different perspectives. So this is how different the Lord can work. So in your case, you look back in your life, but you've been a believer your whole life, right? So you can see the blessings that he bestowed on you along your journey. With me, what he did is every time I got so far off the freaking path, he would put a roadblock and almost like force me back towards him, right? But I wasn't taking the bait, but he stopped a disaster.
Right.
And I can look at so many things when I'm standing in front of judges that would be just like, he was so overwhelmed and so bored, he just let me off. And I'm like, he could have just like hammered me. And then some weird thing happened, right? But he was blocking my path to disaster.
Yeah.
In the hopes at some point that I'd just accept the fact that somebody's controlling my life and it's not me. And so it's so different but it's the same result. I look back, I can see all of those virtually U-turns in my road.
Yeah.
And I'd repeat the same mistakes even over and over. And he still would allow me to make that U-turn. And it was, and I'm sure I'm going to have some more, but I'm going to be more, right now, I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to see the blessings now that I didn't see before because I'm open to it. I pray about it. I'm committed to it. Even though I might, have some moments of weakness, I know that I'll be able to see it clearer than I did.
Mm-hmm. I think one other piece that I'd like to throw out is that, I think a lot of times people come to faith, like one will come to faith and one is not, like especially in a marriage, if you didn't start out or you wax and you wane. And I think when you get married, God makes you one flesh, right? And so it's better if you both are on the same page, but that doesn't mean you can't move towards what God wants you to do if just one of you is there, right? So you asked where he was in his faith. He really wasn't on his faith game before we moved, but I was. Yeah. And so I could move us in that direction. I could pray. I could at least put the pieces in, a praying wife can do a lot. Right?
Yeah.
One of the most defining moments of my Christian journey, this is going to sound so weird, was when she got baptized. Not me.
Really?
That's what started to change my game. I never even really told her that, but her commitment to that is what started me on there. It was not mine. I didn't get baptized until we got to Missoula. I got baptized the first. And I didn't even tell. I was sitting in an auditorium with thousands of freaking people at a Easter service. I don't even know what happened. I'm wearing my hunting boots.
Yo, dear.
I am not wearing anything that you should be wearing to get baptized.
And I was working in the nursery, so I wasn't even there.
I'm sitting by myself.
Oh my
She's in the nursery. Our kids are in somewhere.
Yeah.
I literally, this is not me. I get up and walk down these. We're in the Griff basketball stadium. Go into the hallway. There's a line of people getting baptized, but I didn't see the line. So I'm walking down this hallway. There's nobody. The line is down the other hall, and I can't. If I just saw the length of the line, I think I'd have backed down.
Oh my god!
It's just I was already like, "What are you doing? What are you doing here right this moment?" I literally walked to the end and I made the turn and the line ended right there. And I was like, and I started to back up and I'll never forget this lady just grabs me by the shoulder. I don't even know who it was. She goes, "You're right where you need to be."
Oh.
She knew you could see it in my eyes. She knew I was heading out.
Oh my gosh.
And she literally did not leave my side because she knew that I was going to be looking for the
exit.
And anyway, so I get baptized. I have no clothes, I got so wet. I got the shirt on that gave whatever. I walk into the nursery where she's working. She sees me wet and she kind of lost a little bit there, but so I was 50 years old.
Mm.
So
or close. Yeah, you're
close,
50 because
yeah.
you joined before we came.
So anyway, it's the first time that story's been told.
That's pretty late in life.
It is.
No, I got baptized when I was little. It was one of those production baptisms, where they line you up.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom wasn't even there.
Oh.
They line up the kids, they throw them in the tank, they come out. Right?
They throw them in a tank,
And
sink or swim.
I don't mean that in a bad way, and I think it's a great thing to do, but I feel like as children, you got to really know what you're doing. Our kids are right at the point where it's time for them to do it, right? And I think it was too early. I didn't understand what it meant, and so I just felt this compelling that I had to do it. And even though in my mind I knew I had been baptized, but I said I didn't feel like I was, right? And so anyway, that's a side story. But the point was, when Amy got baptized was really the turning point for me starting to be the turning point.
Right.
Did you notice a change in Amy?
Oh, crazy. That ever since that day, literally every morning of her life, I can only remember maybe less than 5 since then. How many years ago was that?
I don't know, 10?
10 years. She committed to reading her Bible and Bible
10.
study. She's up at 5 o'clock in the morning reading her Bible every day, no doubt, no miss, no nothing, no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter how good or how bad or whatever, every day since that point, since that day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a husband, you see that, even though you're not doing it.
Yeah, Suzanne's better at it than me.
Yeah, me too. I'm not a good Bible reader. I pray a lot. I read it on my phone some when I'm saying, but I'm not as committed as I need to be. It's a weak point. But when you see your wife setting the example, and you see your kids seeing that example, and it's powerful stuff. So when you guys talk about wives staying home, raising kids, and doing whatever, I think sometimes the wives way underestimate their impact on their husband and what it can do and what it really means. Even though the husband's not going to be very good about saying something about it. Like I say it every now and then, but not as much as I should. Like, Amy, your dedication to the Lord is so freaking inspiring for me and other people. But it's done. She doesn't do it for that. That's not her motivation. And I know she wishes I did more. And so don't underestimate the power of that. And because some people feel like it's a lost cause, right? Some women, I think, even men, feel like they're trying to do this, but their spouse isn't.
Right.
Right? They're just not on the same road with me, right?
Yeah. I think as a spouse, you have to really share in the successes of your other half. And I really view us as two halves of a whole. And I also realize, like, the ladder Brian is climbing. Oh, sorry. I've got one rung and God's on the other. And we're both helping him succeed because he's not doing it on his own.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about hunting, because you did it, you kind of never let it go once you did it. Why that particular thing? What about it that is?
So one thing we didn't really talk about, so Amy will laugh, that Amy is really one that said, I'm a guy that, once you know me, I'm either all in or I'm all out.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I've got a light switch, right? I don't have a dimmer switch.
Yeah.
When I did triathlon, I go to Amy, I'm going to do triathlon. What are you going to do in Ironman? Well, don't you think you should do like you can't even swim, dude.
Yeah.
Do you think you should start out with like maybe a sprint? No. If you're going to do it, go big or go home, Now, I did do some other shorts for it, but I mean, when I did triathlon, I was all in. And I'm a football player.
Right.
I was not designed.
Well, your physique right now doesn't exactly bespeak.
No, we were looking at some pictures, right? Yesterday.
Yeah.
And I wasn't designed to be a world-class triathlete.
Yeah.
And so it was
more of a running back.
Right. It was a battle.
You look at this and you think, we might sink.
And, but man, when I was in,
swimmer, though.
Oh, my God.
I was in, all in.
Yeah.
Got better. But when I was out, I turned the switch off. I was out.
Yeah.
2007, Ironman Coeur d'Alene was my last race. And then I turned my attention to something else. When it negative, it was just time to do something else. And I don't mean that with life stuff. I mean just in like hobbies and things.
Right.
But the one thing that I've never turned the switch off was hunting. From my brother starting from whatever age we started to now.
Was it the adventure? Was it the alone time? Is it the peace of the wilderness?
I think what I like about hunting is it's unmasterable. It's the one pursuit of my life that can never be mastered. Meaning you're never going to be 100% successful. You're never going to be the best at it. There's always going to be somebody who's going to kill a bigger buck or bigger. You might kill the world record out, but you're not probably going to kill the world record mule deer.
Yeah.
Both.
Right.
I mean,
you never know what you're going to get.
It's unmasterable and it's so unpredictable, and the way we do it, it can be a little dangerous.
Little. It's got its elements.
Yeah, and
sometimes he tells me the things you guys are doing. I'm like, so I liked it better when you didn't have the inReach.
Oh my gosh.
If you could just say, hey, everything's fine. We'll be home
like,
in a little
the
while.
Pre-programmed message.
Yes.
We just had
I'm
a grizzly
good.
in the
I'm
camp.
alive.
Yeah. I love it when he goes, yeah, some grizzlies are hanging out. And I'm like, okay. And you don't hear from them from 12 hours. And I'm like, great. Thanks for the text.
I know, I'm
I feel
sleeping
great.
well
I'm not
tonight.
stressed out at home at all. I was fine till you texted me.
So I love to go into grizzly country, not because, I like the thrill of it.
Yeah, me too.
But I think the drive is like now, and I used to be a solo guy, solo. And I think that's why Ryan and I have become kind of more friends and kindred spirits, even though he doesn't appreciate me. Is because I would never have killed animals like him, but I operated the way he does. But now my life has changed. Since I've moved here and I met you and Brian, I've never been matched up with people that I really just not only could keep up. That's not the point. It's just like the pursuit,
The wildness,
the self-sufficiency. I mean, most of the guys I'm with, I'm be honest, Joe, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but most of my friends, I have to babysit them a little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, God.
Like Matt Clarevey, I hope he listens to this. Where, dude, I have to babysit him the whole time, keep my eyes on him, right? And but now I am really loving the camaraderie, the partnership, the pursuit together, celebrating. I used to hate it when somebody else would kill something. Right? It would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
And now I thrive on it. Like when Ryan got that wolf this year, I was like, we were in the doldrums of finding bears, right? We ain't found. I don't know if I wasn't more excited than him.
Yeah.
You know, and then last year I was on a hunt solo. Ryan was in with Brian, packed in somewhere, and I didn't go on that hunt. Oh, you're with Pedro.
Yeah.
You guys were with Pedro. So I told Ryan I was going to go check out this new area for us to hunt. So I pack in. I get a wolf. I see a wolf. I've never killed a wolf yet. I make a call. Here he comes. I'm like, holy. He's eating on a carcass, and he's coming to a call.
Crazy.
He looks like he's pregnant. He's eating so much meat. So he's coming, and I saw this ledge. It was like the Lion King ledge. It was perfect. And it's about 300 yards away, and I'm like, he's going to come to that ledge to get a look to where this call is coming from. So I got my gun set up. I got the range. I got dialed. Everything was money. And nothing. And I was like, oh, man, I must have spooked him. All of a sudden, boom, he's sitting right down that ledge. Get my gun on him. As soon as I get the gun on him, a second wolf comes over and sits right behind him. I wasn't thinking about shooting two wolves in one shot. I'm facing. So I get on him and I shoot, and both of those wolves start tumbling down the mountain. I'm like, up. I'm like, what just happened? I got nobody to share
I've won
with.
the Super Bowl.
I'm solo. But this is where I deviated from my life. In my past, I would just sit there and soak it in from my soloness, like what I just did solo. I can't even believe I'm saying this. I pull my phone out. I haven't even found the wolves yet. I haven't even made a move yet. I text Lampers. You ain't gonna believe what just happened. Yeah. I would never do that as a person. In my life would I never do that. I'd be running down the hill, get my hands on those wolves, probably smear some blood on myself, and just
So weird.
Beat your chest. No,
I'd probably get naked and skin them like I do. And I'd be out there naked with two dead wolves.
Oh my God.
And I'd probably hold their hides up and take some selfies.
Make a loincloth. No, I'm kidding.
But the first thing I do is text one of the guys I've been hunting with, right? And it ain't like Lampers and you. We haven't been lifelong friends. We've only been friends a few years.
But he'd be so excited.
But I knew one person that was going to appreciate, and the fact that I killed two at once and he's never done it. I'm not going to say that wasn't in the back of my mind. But that's just something I never would have done in my life until just recently. So I love the hunts with people now that this year we're hunting with more people than I'm ever used to hunting with.
Yeah.
That first hunt, we were in there with 6, 7, 8 of us.
Yeah.
9 llamas, 6
fun.
dudes. I mean, and it was.
But the most fun on that trip was when you and I went on our little 2-day, 3-day excursion. That was rugged country. That was straight.
Brian was thinking, there's no way this dude's going to hang.
I wondered because he's a llama. He's soft with the llamas.
He is a little soft with the llamas. But you guys suggest going with backpacks. He's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
I know.
It's been years since he put it.
I mean,
everything
I literally
pack.
had to carry my sleeping bag and my tent
Oh, man.
and my stove and food.
That must have been very hard for
Yeah.
you.
That makes the pack heavier.
And then because my brother was able to keep an eye on the llamas while he left, and you haven't had someone sort of there to do that
No,
with.
because you guys always leave me with
True.
the llamas.
And I was like, well, he can do it. He didn't know. He did it no problem. We went all the way up there, up these cliffs, straight. And I think even Mark hadn't done it in a long time. And we got to the end, and we're sleeping on these cliffs in these little beds, waiting for these bears. And then we come out, and sure, if we had slipped, we would have died, but we didn't slip, and so we were fine. And but I was a little worried, like checking back there, like I'm confident I can make it down this little chute. But I'm like, can the old guy do it?
They give me no credit, man. They give me no credit.
I know.
And
I think it's pretty remarkable that you're the old guy and you do.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
go.
he came right down this.
I don't
I have all the
consider you
video.
old, but they
people,
do.
People will see the video. It's for real. Like if you fall, it's a problem. But we get down there, and it's a calculated risk. But that's the whole point, I think, of it is one of the main factors when we cross a river or do any of that stuff. There is risk involved. But I feel like I can't go through life without some of that. But it's calculated. We're not being stupid. We don't want to get hurt.
Right.
But there is something about being on that ledge with that heavy pack on and being very careful about what step you're taking and all. There's something about being alive in that moment, And we get down there, but the weather, the smells, the nature, the river, the all of it, you taking it in. And Mark's sitting there on that slope, and he's like, "This wasn't bad at all. Like, this was cool. Like, all my stuff's in my pack. I thought it would be harder than it was, and it actually
He's conquered the mountain.
Yeah.
Now, let's back. I used to do it a lot, right,
Yeah.
before I got llamas. And, but
It was
I did
refreshing,
enjoy-
though, wasn't it?
But you feel good when you get to the top. You're like, I did
it
yes.
twice.
You did it with Brad.
I did
too.
it with Brad for a few days. I did it with you for a few days.
Yeah.
And
Now you know he can do it.
Yep.
and I even slept in a freaking tiny little tarp.
Oh, look
Yep.
at you. Well, that's not surprising. To
I mean,
me at all.
usually,
Yeah, that part. Mark is caveman-ish.
Yes.
Like I don't like some of the layer options are odd. Like he should be cold, but he's not. Like
no.
he's like a walking. Something's wrong with his thermostat because he seems to sweat a lot when it's cold and be hot a lot. Like he's never really cold. It seems.
No, not.
but I'm used to sleeping
Rare.
solo.
When is he cold,
In like
though?
an 8-man teepee.
Like he's honestly not.
The only
cold.
time he's cold is probably in our house in the winter because I don't like to pay for the heat, so we
Yeah.
keep it cold. And so he'll
She's-
be sitting in his office.
She's as nowadays, whatever it is, but she is definitely more cold tolerant than she used to be for sure.
Mark's always like in a t-shirt while I've got my puffy on. And
God, he's hiking up these hills with a puffy on. I'm like, what the?
not up, down.
Whatever.
I hike
Like,
down hills. I get cold when I hike downhill.
I can't even move anywhere with my puffy coat on. If we move, I got to take it off. I don't care if we're just making a 20-foot move over to
Ryan's the freak. Like he can walk up the mountain with the puffy on and the heavy pack and not sweat.
That's because Ryan wears long sleeves in the summer and pants in the summer. He's trained his body to just stay at the one temperature no matter what it's doing outside, what he's got
I don't
on.
know though. Once it's over 80,
he melts.
He dies.
Oh.
He cannot handle the heat at all. And when it gets to 100,
Well, it's probably because he's got on
he's not built
the
for
same clothes that he wears in the winter.
it. Probably. I've never seen him in shorts.
I know, Ryan.
Oh my god.
We're wondering if you can get on camera in your shorts.
What do his legs look like?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
There's got to be some muscle. I mean, he goes
Oh yeah,
jets up mountain.
I know they are. We need to see those.
those Lamper's legs.
Yeah.
I think it's a secret only Hillary has seen.
I think so.
I'm not sure. I think he sleeps in those Havalan.
It might be dark. Yeah, true.
It's fun to talk about Ryan on camera, isn't it?
I gotta get it in where I can.
He's like, I told him.
We don't have a lot to
I said
pick
the next.
on him on.
I go the next video series. It's a collection of hunts where we weren't successful. Episode 1 is Mark not being successful. Episode 2 is Ryan and Brad not going to Starvation Ridge and getting kind of like struggling there. And the third one is Mark not being successful again. And Ryan goes, good. As many Mark's not being successful videos as we can produce, the better.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's great. So shame's good though. It
Yes,
pushes
it
you to that
motivates
next
Yes.
level.
It's,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
good for you guys mainly.
Well, I want to say thanks for having us over.
Yes.
We enjoyed our little visit here. We're going to head home today, but thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I think it's a powerful story, and as always, we appreciate you and our friendship. And I'm hoping
appreciate you guys. We
have a lot of
appreciate that you would
plans.
come to visit us.
Oh yeah,
How wonderful!
I'm glad
is
it worked
that?
out the way it did. That we got a chance to spend a little more. I mean, hotels and meeting up like that, and
No.
recording in studios. You don't get a chance to connect as much. And people think we talk about a lot of things when we're hunting, but we really don't get to dive. Like you and that's the first time we really did a deep dive.
Mm.
And we do more than Lambert does. That's for sure. Lambert just. Now Lambert loves to hear you talk about something, but he ain't gonna talk about anything.
Yeah, there's been a few times where Ryan. There's been a handful. Usually we just hunt.
Yeah.
But there's been a number of times where, he just shared, it's like 1 out of 50, but where he just starts talking. And when that happens, you just sit and listen because it won't happen again for another 3 years. So, but I think that, there's something about being in the mountains and suffering together and being on the same page, and men need those things. I think men need to struggle together on a goal more than they need to talk about their feelings, right? I don't need that from Ryan. I don't need it from Mark. If it happens, it happens. But I just need them to be with me to accomplish this thing. And that is deeply fulfilling for me. And so we go hunts and more hours spent with Ryan, let's say in a year than just about anyone else and in my life. And, during those times, we're focused on goals and objectives. And I honestly think men aren't really, they don't need the whole feelings talk. I just need someone who has the same passion for an activity and an end goal and the commitment and the drive that I know I can rely on him. He won't walk out on me, wimp out, not go the distance, not climb the mountain, not do the thing. And there's something about that I think that men need and they're not getting. I mean, think about it. I mean, over the evolutionary history, men have banded together to defend a tribe, to gather food, to whatever. And that still is a need today.
Absolutely.
And so finding friends, finding people that you can go and tackle things together is important. So anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you. Thanks for supporting the show. You should go check out Mark's Treeline Academy if you haven't. He's pretty good at teaching you how to find elk, I should say. Check that out. But thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay gritty.